Hey everyone, Anark here. This one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to be interviewing former political prisoner Eric King. Welcome, Eric.
Hi, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
I think that probably just the best way to get started here is for you to give everybody a sort of comprehensive background of your case and maybe even kind of some of your life as an organizer and what got you to the point where they were, turning you into a political prisoner. And then maybe we can move to discussing what it was like being in prison afterwards.
Yeah. So I grew up in Kansas City, and I was a part of the lower class, and I took that very seriously. I saw what the capitalist and the police state was doing in my city, and so that was always just something I lived for, is trying to counteract that. And when I was younger, it was almost always in tearing things down. It was in like destruction or fighting, stuff like that. And so in 2014, the cops in Ferguson, Missouri, killed 18-year-old Michael Brown, and that destroyed me. And so what I saw around Kansas City was nothing, no action. And so I tried like attacking banks that were like financing the Ferguson police. I tried going after the KCPD, their cars and their police station too, for real. And it just didn't seem like, I never felt like I was doing enough. I always felt like I was letting Ferguson down. Like they were fighting this immense struggle with the law, and I was sleeping peacefully at night, and that didn't feel right to me. So after visiting there and trying to help in any way I could, I decided to take a little more direct action. And so September 11th, 2014, I got some Molotov cocktails made, and I threw them at a congressman's building, their office. And I made sure it was empty. The goal is not to kill some working class janitor. And yeah, it didn't end up burning the building down. It was a small window. They ended up just like popping off on the side of the building or on the window frame. But I just wanted to make a statement of justified rage, that the state shouldn't be peaceful while other people are fighting for their lives. And I went underground for 5 days. 5 days after that, and someone told the cops what apartment I was crashing at. And September 16th, they showed up with their machine guns and all that jazz, and they got me.
That's pretty intense. You say they showed up with their machine guns. I guess they expected it to be a fight, huh?
Yeah, they were watching. Like, people don't realize, like, when you got white van stuff that you hear about in like movies, like that's real. And so that white van was just out there for 4 or 5 days, and I didn't think I was naive. I was a child, basically, at least mentally. And so yeah, when I went out to walk the dog before going to work, they rolled up, and I did have a bunch of guns. Like, in my car there was a shit ton, and because I thought that was the only way to resist. But they didn't search the car, and I didn't move a fucking inch when they rolled up. I'm sorry.
That was probably in your interest. Yeah. I think they would have taken literally any tiny infraction as an opportunity to do something out of hand. Yeah, actually, Clatari asked a good question here. Do you ever find out who snitched on you?
I wish. I have my suspicions. Only like 4 people knew where I was. And the fact that they didn't search for the guns made me suspicious. But the person I was living with, their whole lives got destroyed. They lost their apartment. They lost their job. Like, the cops ruined them for helping me. So I don't think it was them. But a lot of your comrades, they're really solid until the FBI shows up. And when those feds start talking about, if you don't tell us, we're going to get you, people aren't always able to say no to them.
Yeah, I can imagine. So you were arrested, then you were probably taken to like some kind of county lockup in the meantime, just while they were arraigning you and everything?
Yeah, so in Kansas City, they take you to 12th and Locust. It's the KC jail downtown. and they put you in just like a big room, and it's got like an open toilet at the end of it that's just covered in shit. And then there's like one bench. And so it's like 40 or 50 guys just like sitting on a wall or sleeping on the floor. And you're there for 3 days. And it's miserable. There's one phone, and you just get cups of water and a bologna sandwich for lunch and dinner. And I was vegan, so I wasn't eating shit. And it's just miserable, and you're just waiting. You're waiting for them to tell you how they're going to ruin your life. And then 3 days later, I found out.
So what did they end up charging you with?
I got 4 charges. And they're all the same charge. It was possession of an explosive device on government property, use of an explosive device on government property. And then just like those same 2 things, possession of explosives, use of explosives. So just the same charge. And that first plea deal they offered was 60, and then it became 30. And then finally they dropped all the charges except for the mandatory, and it ended up being 120 months.
Why'd they drop the other charges?
They wanted that plea deal. I was going to take it to trial. And so they try scaring you with the first ones. That's why, like, you'll hear people always on the news like, so-and-so's facing 40 years in prison. But they have a guideline system. So they use those first ones to scare you. And then if you hold out, that's when they come with like the real plea deals. Like you'll hear Casey Goonan right now. They're saying like 5 to 20 years. But like he has a guideline range. He can't get the 20 years. But that's what you're facing. That's what your heart feels. And that's the fear that's like instilled within you and your family.
I feel like that right there is actually a really good lesson for anybody to take away from this. If they're afraid of a future where they are, being hunted by law enforcement, when that happens, so much of it is like psychological warfare in the meantime.
Yeah. And that's real. They tell you how they're going to get you killed. They tell you how your friends are snitching on you, so you should snitch. They tell you all these horrible things about how you're going to die in prison. And if you just stay solid, like maybe you do end up with that 30 or 40, depending on your charges, but there's a guideline range. Like if your crime has a range and they cannot go above it. So if you know that, and if it's worth it to you, then it's real easy to stay solid and just take that time and not let them get in your head.
So I'm interested, kind of like, what was your spirit like? What was your psychology like when this first began? Did you kind of feel defeated? Were you angry? Were you, level-headed? Like, where were you at when this all happened?
So in my life, I was prepared for a long time in prison. All my heroes had prison sentences. Kwesi spent his entire life in prison, basically. So I was prepared for that. But when it actually started happening, it numbs you. Like it just numbed me to the core. Like it took a big part of my personality and just put it on the shelf, because that's when shit gets real, when you're inside there and you realize it's not filled with like David Gilberts. Like you're not going to meet all those people pre-trial in fucking Leavenworth, Kansas. And so I was also really naive. Because I had read all those old revolutionary books, I thought prison was going to be like us against them. We're going to take over the prison. We're going to rebel. We're going to do all these things. And it was 100% not like that. I thought I was going to cross the racial line, and I thought I was going to bring people together with anarchism and anti-fascism. And I was taught a very serious lesson early on that you're not going to change things. So you can either survive them, rebel within and fight, or fucking get killed. It was really the only 2 options. And so it was a big learning lesson. I think young radicals are people that might go inside need to realize that, like, you might make some friends and stuff, but you're going to be tested if you stand on your ethics, and it's hard.
That actually is a pretty good segue, because I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about what it was actually like living in there, because I think we all kind of hear horror stories of what it's like to be in prison. And also you ended up in like Supermax, right?
Yeah.
Which is, that's the worst of the worst right there. But which Supermax were you in?
ADX, the federal one where like El Chapo's at.
Right, right, which is rough. I hear the cultures between them can vary pretty widely. Like I hear the ones out on the West Coast are really brutal, but they can vary quite a bit in just like what it's like to live in there. So one of the first questions I this is kind of something I had on my mind for a long time is like you always hear about when you go in that the gangs just control everything, that there are racial gangs that control the prisons, and that the people say you basically have to like choose somebody to cozy up to. But I've heard other people say the opposite, that it's actually way better to just kind of stick to your own and to not cozy up to any of the gangs and to just like serve your time with your head down kind of. So what was your experience?
So, in the federal system, there's 4 custody levels, and there's the low, medium, penitentiary, and then supermax. And it all depends on what custody level you're at. I'm the only person to ever do all 4 custody levels. And so I got this rare experience to see them all. So if you're at a low security, like where Pepe's at right now, there's no gangs. There's no racial politics. You can do whatever the fuck you want. If you want to sleep in, go ahead. If you want to be dirty, who cares? There's just no issues except for annoying staff or maybe people talking shit. So you don't have to abide by racial politics at all. When you go up in custody, the next one's medium security. And if you're on the West Coast or in a prison with West Coast politics, like I was at Florence Medium, those things are hard. And there are gangs that run those prisons, but there's also what's called cars. And let's say you're a white guy. You're going to be in a car, whether you want to or not. And that car is usually your city. So I was in the Kansas City car. There was an Oklahoma car. And so you don't have to roll under a gang, but you are going to be held accountable. And you are going to follow those politics up to a point. Like you're either going to walk that line or you're going to be fighting a lot. And that's what ended up happening to me. I ended up fighting a lot. When you go to a penitentiary, there's no fighting a lot. You'll get your fucking head kicked off if you don't act right. You will follow the guidelines set forth. You don't have to join gangs. Like people get a misconception about that. It's hard to join gangs. They only want warriors. They only want people that will pull that knife when it's time. And so it takes a lot of years and a lot of like violence to show them, but they do have lots of follower-ons and lots of clicks. But there is a violence on such a level that you have to determine what you're willing to stand on. Like what means the most to you? The gangs in Florence tried bucking on me real hard because I taught a yoga class, and I would let black dudes into my yoga class, and Mexicans, whoever, but the whites rivals inside as black guys. And I would not back down on that. I was like, no, because you're not allowed to live together. You're not allowed to eat together. You're not allowed to work out together, but you're not going to tell me I can't spend this time together. And so I ended up having to stand on that a bunch, and it sucked. Like there was but there was other times when like a trans prisoner would hit the yard and they would try to fuck them up, and I would have to ride with that person. Like, you're not going to do this. But at a penitentiary, I would have got murdered. You don't do that at a penitentiary. You would get literally killed. And then ADX, by the way, ADX, you're locked down 24 hours a day.
What you were describing there was before you went to ADX.
Yeah, the 3 before.
Ah, I see. So there is a little bit of that wiggle room. You can kind of stand on principle a little bit in the first 3 levels. You can stand on principle, but you're gonna have to fight on it, basically.
The first 2, at a low and medium, at a low you can do anything. At a medium, you just have to toe the line. Don't go over too far. Like if I had tried to live with a black guy, I would have got stabbed. You cannot do that. But I could play Scrabble or teach a class. At a penitentiary, you're not doing any of that. The second they think you're doing something race traitorish, you're dead. You're dead.
So you were transferred through all of them. And so now when you moved into the penitentiary, was that kind of was that like a shock? Or were you just kind of prepped for it before you even went?
You cannot prep for a penitentiary. I was stunned and I was only there for a short while. Like I wasn't I wasn't in a pen hardly at all, but the level of violence there is incomprehensible. Every day someone is getting seriously hurt. And then every other hour of the day, you're hearing people bragging about hurting people or telling what's called war stories. Oh man, you remember when Joey put that blade into Sammy? Da, da, da. And it just gets so old. It's miserable and it sucks the joy out of your life. At that point in time, I had Antifa tattooed on my face. And you cannot do that because they're the FA. They know that. And so the guards hated me too, because that's when Trump was going really hard on leftists. And so the guards ended up setting me up to get fucked up there by they called me from my cell and put me in an outside cage with one of the Nazis who wanted to kill me. And so we ended up having a fight while the guards just watched. And that stuff happens a lot if you're on the wrong side of that fence. And so my penitentiary time was very short because of that. And it was very violent. Like I got in 4 bloody hard fights there. And I'm a small dude. Like I'm 5'7", 140 pounds. So if I didn't know how to box from the free world, I could have got killed. But the difference in violence between a low and a penitentiary is like the difference in life between Bel Air and Gaza. It is not the same world in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people, when they hear about this, are afraid of. You know, they're afraid of having to live in that life. So you say you knew how to fight beforehand, and you think that was a big part of what helped you survive.
It's the only part. Because even though I'm little, like having that experience, like knowing that I can take a punch, knowing I know how to move, knowing that I can at least keep myself safe. Like that plays a big role in how you're able to like exist in these institutions. Like if someone had came at me 2-on-1 or with a knife, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Run as fast as you can. But 1-on-1 or even sometimes 2-on-1, if they were small, I can at least keep myself alive. And that people need to know how to do that stuff if you're going to be inside or be ready to stab someone.
Right. So you think that radicals, if they're going to get themselves involved in crime, or rather if they're going to do things that are risky like that, they're going to get law enforcement on their ass, that they probably need to prepare to be able to defend themselves before they ever even go in? Do you think that's probably good advice?
Yeah. If you're physically capable, like you should, even just in general, just in free world right now, like we don't know what these cats are up to. I think that is one of the most crucial things we should learn, because you don't want to be a victim. You don't want to be inside. If you're a victim, you're going to the hospital. On the free world, I guess the same, really. And so the goal inside is to get out. It's not to be a tough guy. It's not to like try to revolutionize prison. It's to get out alive with your ethics intact. And so if you don't know how to defend yourself, you're going to learn very quickly how bad things can get. So yes, learn now.
So that was actually another thing I want to talk about with ethics intact, right? I think that's what a lot of people are also terrified of, is that you have to stoop to the lowest common denominator in a culture of violence like that. So to what degree do you feel like you were even able to live as an anarchist while you were in prison?
So I did it in a very stupid way, to where I put that first. Like I am not changing myself to match the biggest trash around me. There were lines that I had to walk, though. Like I wasn't going to die over who I had to live with. It's not worth it to me. If I have to eat at only white tables, that's fine. Because if I tried to sit at the black tables, they wouldn't like that either. Like they don't want to cause a race war between the races. So you walk the line as tightly as you can. But like I would push that line. Like I would still get in radical books. I would still teach classes. I would still go to the law library and work with people and help people. I would still, like if someone's being homophobic around me or saying racist shit, I'm not laughing. I'm not joining in. They know where I stand. And so that's how you maintain it. You maintain it by your mentality and your actions. So like, if I would have laughed along with them calling black dudes like racial slurs, Like, who am I? Who am I? That's not who I want to be. At the low security, I did it. Who the fuck's gonna stop me? I'll come tell me I can't read this stuff. Like, I'll fucking boot you in the throat. But at those other institutions, and when you talk to people, you try to navigate it into a class discussion. So like if someone was bashing black people, they're all on welfare. I would point out, like, my mom's on welfare. My mom's on welfare because these Republicans closed down her factory. And so she doesn't have a job anymore. What if your mom lived in a community where they intentionally removed work? Would you go on welfare or would you starve? And when you have these discussions as a class thing, you can segue it into a racial thing, and then you can start like really being who you are. But it's a very delicate dance. And as I said, there was violence from staff, violence from guards, violence from everybody. It comes at you at all angles. And I could have tightened up a little bit for sure.
In what way?
So I didn't have to, like in the medium, I didn't have to be as open about it. I didn't have to talk about white supremacy all the time. I didn't have to call out homophobia all the time, because in my mind, I was representing the left inside prison. They're not going to meet another person, most likely. And I wanted people to know that I won't tolerate this. But getting yourself fucked up isn't going to stop homophobia in prison. Getting yourself stabbed or getting yourself, like, I got jumped a lot for real, isn't going to stop racism. It's going to make you a target. And so your life isn't worth words. Like, there's nothing someone can say inside prison that is worth dying over. But that is what happens. And that is what I put myself in a position to experience. And I'm glad it didn't ever escalate beyond that. But like, if anyone's going in right now, like, I would tell them, just be cool. Like, you can relax. You don't have to fight every battle. The whole thing needs to be fight to win. Fight the battles that are the most important. When they tried to kill that trans cat, that was a fight worth having. That's when you stand up. That's when you get the knife and you're like, you're not going to hurt this dude. I'll stand on this. But someone calling someone a slur over here, you don't have to inject yourself in that business. You can avoid it until you can't.
So you've also mentioned that you are vegan, and I assume that's a present tense there. No, okay. So that's what I was about to get into. Okay, so like, can you be vegan in prison? Is that like possible? Can somebody do that?
It sucks. It's hard. I did it, and you get a lot of abuse too from other prisoners because they think you're I don't know what I'm on. Like, sometimes I don't talk. They think you're a bitch. Because meat's associated with masculinity. So you get what's called, it's the most disgusting phrase. It's called a no flesh diet. Yeah, disgusting. But so you starve unless you have commissary. That's when prison support comes in handy. So like, I would get like a soy patty, and then some sloppy veggies, but you can't eat the desserts. You can't drink the milk. You can't eat the eggs. So all you really have is beans, soy patties, and then peanut butter if you're lucky enough to have people send you money. And I was a twig. Like, I was starving almost every second of the day.
That's rough, man. How long did that last? Did you stop being vegan while you were in there just because of how terrible it was? Or
when at ADX, because you're by yourself, like, you cannot get food from your friends, you can't get extra food from the kitchen. I didn't eat meat, but I would I started eating like the French toast because I just needed to eat. And you have to survive. So I would try to eat as little as possible, but if all we have for dinner is eggs and I didn't eat dinner yesterday or the day before, I'm not gonna die in this prison where I'm already getting like fucking tortured. Like, you do your best. 70% is better than 0%.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I've had people also ask about that. So by the end, would you say that you weren't eating vegan anymore, or is that why you kind of shook your head when I said about it being present? Is that kind of when you stopped being vegan while you were there?
It is, and the reason I laughed is because like I have so much fucking guilt about that. It doesn't feel good. Like I recognize my like oppressive nature in doing that, but I also recognize that like I at what point, how do I word this? Sometimes I just want to fucking eat something. Like sometimes I just want to create dopamine where they stole it. And if that means eating a goddamn chocolate chip cookie that might have milk in it, like I don't want to say I earned that cookie because no, I didn't earn anything. But if I'm being honest, I've been through a lot. And if this can create just even a little bit of dopamine that they stole from me, then I'm willing to do that. But I do
Yeah, I mean, no judgment from me. I am an omnivore myself. So, but somebody also mentions, they say fairly certain that kosher and halal diets can be bent or broken during times of turmoil or extreme distress, for what it's worth. So, like,
to be honest, that does feel good.
Yeah,
like, it does make me feel better.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think most people understand that this is extreme circumstances. So probably even most people who are really diehard vegans would understand. And
I got a lot of
a
shit
mixture in the
about it.
audience. So,
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, I got a mixture in the audience, so it's not. I don't think anybody's about to burn you down here.
I did get burned down in letters though. People that act like they're prison support. And by the way, I made this hat. For the person asking, I made this myself. Yeah. It's my own brand. Fuck cops. But so I would get letters from alleged like supporters, but they only supported me because of the vegan stuff. And they would lecture me about how if I'm drinking milk, I might as well be drinking blood. I might as well just go kill someone and drink their blood if that's how I'm going to be. That like I deserve to be treated that way then. And it was sickening. I don't want to say it made me hate vegans, but it made me hate those motherfuckers. Like, you come in here and starve 5 days a week and then also have to fight and also have to deal with mental and emotional abuse. Don't judge me, motherfucker. But they did. And it's...
Yeah, no, I'm sorry to hear that. That sounds super, super stressful. Just adding more difficulty, more emotional turmoil to what was already such a difficult scenario. So you were talking about that, you've talked a lot about PIN. Now, what about moving into Supermax? Like, what was that also kind of a culture shock, or do you feel like penitentiary and Supermax are closer to each other? So, or is it another can't be prepared for the transition kind of thing?
No. So before being sent to, because it's a long process. So I went through a whole second trial inside prison for fighting a lieutenant, and they were trying to give me 20 years, and I took it to trial, and I won. And they weren't expecting that. Like only 0.08% of federal trials win. So when that happened, the Bureau hated my guts. Like I was in the shoe the whole seg, for about 4.5 years straight at that point. Yeah. And I had like special restrictions because I was Antifa, fucking Trump. So I had no phone calls, no visits, no email. And for 2.5 of those years, no mail. I wasn't allowed mail. And so that's 24-hour lockdown. And then after trial, that's when they started the process, and you have to like talk to psychologists, and region has to approve, and it's a long thing. So when I went to ADX, I'd already done 5.5 total years, 4 straight, and then another couple before that. And so I thought I was ready. You think you are. But that prison is so mythological inside the feds. Like it's where Ted Kaczynski was. It's where all the Unabomber, like all these people, I guess that's the same person, but you know what I mean? Like the 9/11 dudes are in there, like just these infamous people. And then all of a sudden, like me, like, what am I doing here? But so that prison's strange because it's a tomb. I didn't see anyone or hear another voice for my first 2 weeks. Like, and you're in a concrete box. It's not a steel cell. You can't hit the wall. You're in a concrete box. You don't see the sky. You don't hear anything. And it's psychological torture. People lose their minds there. Because the isolate, like you're literally never around another human except for a guard with a steel baton. And even then you're handcuffed. So I didn't have a visit my first year there. I only had 7 phone calls my entire 2 years there. It just isolates you, it tears your brain to pieces. And that's what you're not prepared for. You're not prepared for how serious isolation can get. And so you got to do what you got to do to survive.
How long were you in Supermax?
2, just about 2.
Man, that's horrifying. That just sounds terrible.
I'm going to be honest. Like, I still suffer a lot of trauma because it was after the trial, and then that it was 5.5 straight years of essentially no communication with people I love. There'd be like little pockets where I was allowed letters or whatever, but that shit gets hard. It sounds easy. A lot of people think like, oh, at least you're not around other mean people. But like, if you're sitting in your bathroom for 5.5 straight years, you can imagine the toll that takes on your brain and on your body. And it's hard to describe because, like, how do I describe to you that it made me scared of every other human being, and it made me paranoid that everything's about to happen, and it made me not trust myself as a human. Like, am I a piece of shit? Like, am I bad? That's what institutionalization is. You take on the role of the oppressor, but on yourself. And that shit happens. And it takes a long time to shake off, and I'm still shaking it off.
Somebody asked, I think, a pretty good question because you talked about yoga. They said, how did yoga and meditation help with isolation?
It helped a lot, honestly. Meditation, not so much, because in the shoes, you cannot block out the noise. There are people yelling, rapping, hitting the walls, shaking the bars 24 hours a day. That's that torture. In ADX, you're all by yourself, and all you can hear is your voices. And that's where yoga and meditation were really great. I ended up like pinching a nerve in my neck my last like 6 months, so I couldn't even move to do the workouts, and that was torturous. But it does help because it's a part of your routine. And so it's not even the yoga or the meditation, it's having a routine. Like, this is a part of my day. It's going to create dopamine because I set a goal, and now I'm achieving that goal. That's where it helps you. And obviously like the physical stuff, but mentally, that's what it did for me. I have a goal. I accomplished it. That's more than they wanted me to do. They want me to sit in here and rot. Instead, I set plans for myself. And so it's a psychological battle. And so it helped in that way a lot.
So I've always wondered, will they allow you, for example, to like write? Will they give you just like paper and pencil, or is even that not okay because you could hurt somebody with the pencil?
And like, are you talking about in prisons or in like Supermax shit?
I mean, kind of honestly at all of the different levels. I assume at the first level, yes, but like as you proceed, like at what point are you not allowed to just write, for example?
At every level, you're given like these little rubber pins. And so it's like a little small thing. It's got a little pin in there. At low and medium, you can have anything. They don't care. You're not going to do nothing. But so even in a penitentiary, you can buy pins because you have real knives. You don't need to make a pin, a knife out of a pin. Like, that's the least of their worries. But when you get into this shoe, that's when you start losing all this stuff. So they would give you like, it's a piece of rubber, like a tire, and you have to sharpen it on your ground and then try to write letters that way. So people coming into the shoe or from other institutions would wrap up the small pins, like 3 or 4 of them, and bring them back to the shoe that way. And so then sell them. They sell them for like $10, these little pins. So I was buying pins. And even in ADX, like, you're not around nobody. Like, you can write whatever you want. And then books, that's another thing. In the shoe, you're not getting books. There was years where I didn't read anything at the higher custody shoes and that stuff. But once you get into ADX, you can get books. They take a couple months to get to you, and they have to be pre-approved by goddamn SIS or the FBI. And they have to be softback. They have to be from Amazon. It's a big capitalist racket. But yeah, you have things that you can do to stimulate your brain if you have people that love you and send them to you. But think about all the men inside and women who don't have support. They're not getting books. Like they're having to rely on a prison book cart. Fucking James Patterson books missing 35 pages. It's hard. Like I had to go several years without books, and it is hard living. Same with writing. It's hard.
I'm interested. You said you wrote a lot. What kind of stuff were you writing while you were in there?
Yeah, so I would write essays. I would write essays about the existence within. I would write essays about how I was trying to survive, about the things I was seeing. Just like in the free world, like I think it's important to not hyper obsess about yourself. So I would try to write about other people's experiences, what they were going through, and like how that affects society, all of us. I would try to like write to raise support for people. And I would also just call these motherfuckers out. I would call them out, like the guards and everything. And once again, that's stupid. They read that stuff. So I would also try to write poetry. Like I'm not a good poet, but it makes your brain work. That's the whole reason I did it, because to formulate your emotions into the structure takes work. And so it's just a way to exercise your brain, just like your body. And then I would just write letters. I'd write little stupid ass letters. I'd only get, sometimes you only get 5 pieces of paper a week. So I'd have to tear the paper and then write little tiny letters. Like write really small, like I'm an IRA guy trying to smuggle out toilet paper. But yeah, they want to limit that stuff, and I'd go months without letters. Oh yeah, someone just hyped up my book. But they don't want you communicating. That's not what they want.
Yeah. Somebody says Eric also co-edited an entire book from within the USPS and ADX.
Yeah, that's rattling the cages. And that goes with what I was telling you about how it's not about me. There are people inside that have been through hell that is different than my hell. And so that's not to be brushed aside. Their experiences are stuff we can learn from and grow from. So rattling the cages, that's actually Josh. Me and Josh did that. And so it was just telling the stories of ex-political prisoners or current prisoners and what their actual lives were like. Because our crimes aren't that important. Like we all know, like we did something with fire or explosives or we killed somebody. It's all the same, really. It's cool, but we still live human lives inside. That doesn't stop. You don't stop being someone who feels and loves and all these things. And so I thought that was more important than what their ethics were, their politics. So I wanted to tell that story or give them a chance to tell their own story.
So a lot of the stuff you wrote ended up going in that book. I think you had mentioned to me before when we were talking that you might have published 2. Is that correct?
Yeah, the second book, that's the one that's coming out soon. It's this right here. I have the little postcard. It's on PM Press.
Boom.
And so that's me being tortured. So
Jesus.
have fun with that.
Wow.
Yeah. So that book's about what trial is actually like. And it's an anthology of ADX about the different ways that they torture us in there and how people resist, how people exist, how people find strength, how they find love. Because it's telling their stories too. It's not all about me. There's other people in this world. So I try desperately to tell stories, to build empathy and love and compassion for even the worst of the worst. Even if someone's crimes are atrocious to you, they're still under the thumb of the state, and they were still kids once, and they still have family that loves them. So I try to honor their existence as humans.
So I remember you mentioned Balagoon earlier. Was Balagoon one of those guys you look up to?
Yeah, I used to have the Kwesi Appreciation Society in Kansas City, and our whole thing was going around and pumping holes in cop car tires, just popping them because we were kids. Or like super gluing ATMs, like you'd put a card in and break it and super glue it. Just fun shit, like just fun stuff. And so
Hoodlum stuff.
Yeah, and his time inside was unbelievably hard. Like at one point he had a gun smuggled in, like took some guards hostage, stuff like that. But he ended up dying of AIDS inside because no one cared. No one cared about prisoners. And so yeah, that's why he was one of my idols, because he never gave up.
Yeah, no, he was truly an impressive human being, and I've had a lot of people read Soldier's story and be very inspired by Soldier's story.
If you're not inspired by Quasi, like, you might be a piece of shit. Like, you might want to check your internalized racism or something.
So I was going to ask, I realized that I kind of wanted at the beginning, I was going to ask kind of about your ideological positions, like what theorists were the ones that stood out most to you, what things were most inspiring to you in your early journey. So I guess that's a good opportunity. If you had to kind of name the theorists and the anarchists of history that were the ones that really stood out to you, you'd probably say Balagoon, but who else would you say?
At that point in time, I was all action. So it was all go. So obviously the old school people like Berkman and the old Italians. But then like I really love Bonanno. Like I love that dude. And Alfredo. And his whole thing was like, let's get to work. Like let's start chopping down this tree. And he went to prison for like a jewelry heist or something. I really loved reading about the old Spanish cats like Derudi and them. The illegalist in France, I guess everywhere else too, because it was all action. It was all, I'm not going to let your repression steal my soul. I am going to fight against this. And that's what I carried into prison was that same attitude of like, I say this a lot, but you took my body. You're not taking this. You're not taking my heart. When I got free, it became a lot more different. My anarchism became a lot more growth instead of tear. It became like, how can we build communities? How can we help each other? How can we do mutual aid? How can we be kind? How can we open our arms and our hearts to build the world we want to see as opposed to just tearing down the world we hate? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I still want to see these cops dead. I still, like, every cop is still a target. That's not what I'm saying. But for me and where I'm at mentally, it has to be a place of growth, because otherwise I'll spiral into depression and trauma and just fucking hate the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's kind of that's actually exactly what I was wanting to know is kind of, yeah, how that evolution took place. Because, on this channel, I definitely promote more the constructive, or I try to promote the constructive and the destructive at the same time, right? Because as you note, a lot of anarchists are much more on that destructive side rather than constructive. And I try to balance them. I think it's really important that we have kind of an equally constructive and destructive vision, right?
I think it's simple. I think the destructive is really simple. It's just a quick expression of dissatisfaction or anger or sadness or empathy, radical empathy. But it's easy to do. It's easy to take a gun and go blast a cop's head off. It takes a little bravery or impulse control, and you can do it. It's a lot harder to formulate ideas about how to make the government and system unnecessary. Like to build a world to where we don't need them. And that takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more work to do the garden stuff, to feed people, to help people get medical care they need. It's hard. That is hard as shit. Prison support is hard. Like supporting people inside that you might not even like. That's hard. And so I honor people that do that now, because like I know how easy it was to do the other side. There's nothing. Just throw some bottles. Pull the trigger. It takes no thought. It takes a lot of heart. Maybe a pinch of bravery, but it's just as hard to support the trans community in the face of fascism as it is to shoot a politician or something.
So, I wonder, was anarchist Black Cross in communication with you while you were in prison?
So, I mean, the ABC is not a monolith. There's different ones all across the country, and Denver ABC is who found me. They found me inside, and like, I don't want to say save me, but if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have shit. They brought along every other support I had. And then there was different groups. Like there were groups. There was also like just more random people. Like ABCs were great, and they published the writings, which is really crucial to get your story out. But there was people like Josh that were just writing me because they care. There's people like Marissa in Northern California that just care. The Bloomington cats, they just care. And that's what I needed. Like when you're inside, it's cool to have like these groups back you, because that helps build support. It gets you funds. It allows you to buy coffee and be comfortable. But what you really need is to feel loved, to feel valued. Without that, it doesn't matter how many goddamn letters you get. I could get 50 letters a week, but if they were all just tokenizing me or objectifying me as a political prisoner, as opposed to connecting with me as a human, like, thanks, like, it feels good. But so, yeah, the groups are badass, but they're only as badass as the action they carry out. So if you're an ABC group, but you only write one person once a month, that's how cool you are. You're cool one day a month. And that's how I stand. I don't like sugarcoating with these dudes. A lot of people like think that like everyone who does prison support is some goddamn saint, or that like we should be groveling for support. But like that's a part of the revolutionary movement. Like you cannot call yourself a anarchist or revolutionary or whatever, and then turn your back on those being repressed by the state. And I'll call that shit out. Like if you can do more, you should do more. We don't need to like pat ourselves on the back and talk about how great we are because we do abolition work. If your abolition work is just saying hi to someone once a month.
Yeah, I bring it up because I really do want to promote people doing prison support. I think it is absolutely one of those things that just like gets forgotten. And even sometimes, somebody will ask me, what can I do? And I'll make a list of stuff. And only afterwards, like a few minutes later, am I like, damn, I didn't even mention prison support. And that is something that's very accessible to so many people, just writing letters. But also an architect was asking what type of letters help.
Yeah, for sure. And so I just want to segue back to this real quick. Like, please, if you're going to write people, don't just write the fashionable ones. Like I really push for people to write the elder black prisoner, like liberationist. People like Kojo, people like Jojo Bowen, people like Fred Burton, people that put their lives on the line and have now been forgotten. Like it's really easy to write Casey and Marius, and you should, but there's elderly cats that don't have anything, and they need love too. And so the letters that helped were the ones that spoke to me. They would ask me questions. They would respond with answers. They would tell me about their lives, but then ask about my life, so we could actually be friends as opposed to whatever. Some people only supported me. Like they would do other stuff. They wouldn't write me letters, but they would raise money for books. They would print flyers. They would do that stuff. So there's 1,000 ways to support, but the letters that helped were the ones that communicated with Eric, not the ones that communicated with political prisoner Eric King. Because I'm more than that. I'm more than a couple bottles, or more than just some dude who can put up with a lot of torture. Like that's cool, but like, can we talk about other stuff? Can we connect as humans? And when we're able to do that, it builds lasting relationships. My wife wrote me in prison. That's how we connected. Josh Davidson we've been friends for 7 years now. He wrote me in prison. So these things, you can build relationships. And I got my job because they wrote me in prison. They were supporting me when I was inside ADX. So there's ways to connect, but it always starts with recognizing that each person is an individual human, not an object, and that we should reach out to them at where they're at, not where we want them to be.
Damn, that's a killer piece of advice. That's exactly what I was wanting to get the answer to, right? Because I think a lot of people as well don't even know what the hell they're supposed to be writing in a letter, right? I think our first inclination is to be like, oh, you're an anarchist? Let's talk about how awesome anarchism is or whatever, right? But instead, it's like, no, really, what somebody needs in a place where you're so vulnerable and your psyche is so like broken, you're so beaten down, what you really need is for somebody to tell you, hey, you're a human being. I care about you. Like you matter to me, right? Like I want to reassure you that you have value as a person.
And when you ask someone questions, it gives them a chance to feel valued because like maybe you actually want to hear what I have to say. And if they respond to you, it shows you that they actually care. Like if you write me asking one of my favorite colors and I say blue, and then you write back saying blue's awesome, like I love blue birds, like you're communicating now. And then if I want to talk about politics, I'll write you about politics. I'll say, did you read this book by fucking whoever? And then we can have that conversation. But don't lead with it. Like lead with humanity and kindness. That's a goal for life too.
Hell yeah. Damn, that is gold. Somebody said this is gold. They're right. This is gold for sure. Like no doubt.
I'm a pedantic jerk.
So how much were you able to, because, I mentioned reading in there, but how much were you able to actually like read anything that had any association with your politics, or was it just like too locked down?
So someone asked about sending stamps and blank sheets of paper. Don't send stamps. Unless you know for a fact their institution allows it. I had people like send me clothes and shit. And it just made me so sad because it showed that they care, but they didn't care enough to actually look up what I was going through. Because if you saw that, like, you would know, like, I'm not even allowed letters. Of course I can't get clothes. So if you're going to send blank sheets of paper, do it at the end of a letter. Write a letter and then send 2 extra pieces of paper. That way they don't throw them away. That's the way to like pimp the system. You can also put if you send them a letter and you put the stamp at the bottom of the envelope, the machine processes the top. So then we can heat up water or breathe on the stamp and you can peel it off and then reuse it because it doesn't have the black ink on it. So that's the way to send stamps. But as far as books, yeah, man, and a lot of them, I gotta be honest, a lot of them are boring as shit. Like, I don't need every AK Press book about every single goddamn thought that ever happened in the world. I don't need that. I like books about people that motivated me or history that was interesting, but also like I like dystopian books. I like National Book Award winners. I want to read things that expand my brain and my ability to process the world, not just my ability to think about repression. I think about repression every second of the day. If this guard's pissing in my cell and throwing away my letters, I understand that hierarchy is bad. But I also want to know what this wizard and this dragon's doing. Like, can we read books that also have just lessons within them instead of like preaching to me? But they let in books because they want to profile you. Prisons profile people. So they would let me have every single radical book. And then they would also let the FBI know this guy's getting radical books. So that the next time someone comes in, they'll know how to treat them. They'll know what to expect and how to repress them. So, yeah, they let that shit in and they do it on purpose.
Wow. I honestly, I expected you to just say no. I'm kind of blown away by that answer. Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I guess that's actually also part of the purpose of asking the person who they are and what they're actually interested in, because then you know what you would even want to send them rather than sending them, Anarchy by Malatesta or something, which is like, yeah, great book. But
I got that 3 different times. Like the thick ass Malatesta books.
That's exactly what the book would be too.
It's like, thank you, but like, you didn't even ask. Like, I have a book list, or I did. My wife put one together and different comrades helped a lot. And God bless, man. People would send me 4 books at a time and not one of them was from the book list. And it's like, you just wasted money. Like, what am I going to do with this? Like, you can't read theory all goddamn day when you're stuck in a gray wall your entire life. You can't do it. And so ask them what they want to read or check the goddamn book list, please. It's not hard. Right. You just click a button.
You probably need a little bit of escapism, kind of.
That's the ticket, yeah. And so that's where I said I like learning moral lessons from books. So, like, you can send me a book about anarchism, but have it be Ursula Le Guin or someone. Like, let it be a way that I can expand my own brain instead of having someone try to do it for me.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, I mean, for my own personal conception, my idea of how I would survive in prison was always that if I could write, I could stay sane, right? Like that for me, that was almost just the key. Like, if I can write, I'm going to be okay. Like, maybe not generally, of course, it's going to fuck my brain up, but I can survive is the way that it, and you're saying that there kind of is hope of that, maybe even the worst circumstances. You just have to be clever about being able to do it.
Yeah, don't think that you'll only survive if you write. Like, you still have to exist within prison. So Don't think that, like, oh, if I write a bunch, I don't have to go put in work or get shaken down. But if you're in a segregation situation and you have access to pen and paper, it's something that can keep your brain active. And especially someone like you, who obviously has like an intellect and likes to express it, or formulate it, develop it. Like, writing would be something that could really help you. But if that's all you do all day, you'll atrophy. Like, you will descend upon yourself. You have to find a routine. You have to be physically mobile. You have to do things that work out your body and your heart and your brain. And so if you don't have other ways to find dopamine, because then like the reason I say that is because like, let's say all you do is write all day. That's your passion. That's how you do your time. What are you going to do when they fucking take your paper and pen?
Mm-hmm.
You've built your whole structure around that. Now you have nothing. So you shouldn't ever get too intact with something that they can take from you. That's why you need it here and your body also.
That's some good fucking advice right there. So I mean, it's like, you know, another thing is this is a ridiculous thing to say, but I've always felt like, well, you know, one of the only upsides of prison is I'm going to have a lot of time to work out, you know, not a lot of distractions. I'm going to be able to just work out while I'm in there. Do you feel like that's actually true? Or do you feel like you don't get enough food to even build muscle while you're in there?
So this is tricky because like on the surface, no, you don't get enough food. But if you have commissary, if you're on a yard, you can just buy food from the kitchen workers, or from other people. But so it all depends on your circumstances. Like when there was a time period for like 2 months where I just got one loaf a day. It's where they like take all this food and they blend it together and they just cook it and give it to you. I could not work out then. I could walk laps and that's it. But if I'm on a yard and I've got all this extra peanut butter and all these beans and veggies, yeah, I work out probably 3 or 4 hours a day because it creates dopamine. It creates purpose. It creates structure. It gives you something to feel proud about, a way to bond with other people. And those are the things that help you survive is having something to be proud about, having something to occupy your brain, having something to make you feel good. Like those things are priceless inside. So yeah, you would work out. It looks like you're in good shape already for real. So you'd be doing your burpees like and you have to, like if you're in a car, they're going to make your lazy ass go out there and do the work. No one's going to have someone on their team that they don't feel is capable of defending themselves. So if you're just sitting on your fucking lazy ass all day watching TV, they might discipline you. Like they might literally beat you up or drag your ass out to that yard.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
It's not funny. I'm laughing. It's not funny. It's stupid.
No, well, it's absurd, right? I mean, it's terrible. So I guess maybe as another curiosity, did you actually meet any of these famous villains that were in there with you while you were in there?
Yeah. You would meet them like behind a door, like, or shouting through a toilet or whatever. I met Richard Reed, the shoe bomber. He's been there for like 11 years, I think. But so he was in the unit next to mine. So if I went to outside rec for my hour, we're in dog kennels by ourselves. Like it's like a 6x8 dog kennel. That's your outside rec. But I could yell to his window, to his cell, and he would try to yell back. So I got to see bitch ass Terry Nichols with a black eye because some mob dude punched him. So they walked him to the hospital or to medical, and he had a big ass black eye. I don't know if you know like gang history, but like Larry Hoover, the guy who started the GDs, very famous, been in prison for 50 years. Wayne Perry, the DC hitman, punk ass Eric Rudolph, the Olympic and abortion bomber. So I got to meet some of those cats, and then also just like people that are prison famous, like someone like Cueta, who's one of the commissioners for Nuestra Familia. He was at Pelican Bay when it opened. He was one of the first people sent to Pelican Bay. He was in Maxim magazine, like wildly infamous. And so you meet these cats, and you realize very quickly that they take a shit just like you do. Like they go to bed, they eat the same bad food, but also they have been in prison a long time. And even if I hate you, I want to take that on you. I don't want the state to do that to you. I don't want to empower them to do it. So like I'd see Eric Rudolph, and I think to myself, like, I would love to put a knife in your neck, but I wish it wasn't the federal government doing it. Abolition has to be for everybody or it's for nobody. But yeah, a lot of those dudes are lame. Like Terry Nichols is a fucking bitch. Just a tattletale narc. But I wish I could kill him instead of the prison doing it.
Right. So like somebody here asked like pretty good question, right? Because this is really in line with the sort of things we've been discussing. Is it hard to remain empathetic to others around you when you're having to spend every day with them?
Yes. Some of these people you grow to hate deeply. On a yard, it's the easiest thing on earth to hate somebody and the prison encourages it. Like the environment encourages you to hate them and to show them how much you hate them. But in the SHU or in ADX, you're around these cats, and if you're able to think outside yourself, it is easy to develop empathy. Like I would meet people that had been inside that prison for 20 years. You've never heard of them. 20 years of 24-hour lockdown, and their actions were monstrous. Like one of them cut some dude's stomach open and wrapped the intestines around him. That's indefensible. But you start seeing like he's got a family too. Like he was a little kid once. These things don't happen in a bubble. Like capitalism destroys people. Environments destroy people. A lack of love and a lack of empathy when they were younger or developing, or a lack of mental health care. These things, no one grows up wanting to cut someone open. No one grows up wanting to do this, but your environment can shape you. But do I get angry at them? Yeah. Like, fuck you, dude. Lay down. If someone's being too loud, they're hitting their shower, and that's the only noise I can hear all day of my life, I want to murder that person. Without a doubt. Like, there's not a second thought in my mind except for violence. But you got to reel that in. Like, that cannot be how you exist, or that's how you'll be. You are what you put out. And so if you just exist in a world of violence, the world they want you to have, that's who you're going to be. And so it's a conscious decision not to be that way. And someone said, what car do the geezers ride with? Larry Hoover, he's GD. He's the head of the GDs. He's the founder. Wayne Perry, he's the head of the DC Blacks. Someone like Eric Rudolph or Terry Nichols, they're just white pieces of shit. There's not really cars in ADX because you're by yourself 24/7. So on a yard, Terry Nichols would roll with white dudes in Oklahoma. Eric Rudolph would roll with the whites from Georgia, where the fuck that trash is from. So, but yeah, you have to maintain a level of your own humanity, because otherwise you're living their narrative. And I don't want the government to control my narrative. They control enough. You don't get this too.
Do you feel like now that you're out that you've kind of started to redevelop some of that empathy? Do you feel like you're able now with some distance to have more empathy for the people that you were there with?
I had it then too. And I do have that. I try to, and I talk about this sometimes with people I know, I really try to separate what their crime is from the fact that they exist. And kind of like what I said earlier, I have to remind myself that they were a child playing with toys once or bouncing a ball. I don't know what they saw. I don't know what adults did to them. I don't know what the school or lack of schooling did to them. I don't know these things. Like Richard Reed, for example, he watched other Muslims get blown to shit. He was in Bosnia. He watched Iraq and Afghanistan. He loved so much that he had to act out in rage. So do I judge him the same way the government's judging him? Am I the state now, or I'm going to say you did this so you get punished? That's not my job. I don't want that. And so that is something I still do today. I still focus on the fact that if they had love, if they had all things equal, who knows? But I don't want to be judged. I don't want someone to look at me and say, like, this white trash piece of shit needs to be in prison for life. I want you to say, like, who is he? Like, why? Why did you feel this was best? What do you care about? What means the most to you? What causes you happiness? And that's where I put my attention with these cats.
So how long have you been out now?
Has it been a year and a half? Almost a year and a half. June 12th will be my year and a half mark. And when I got out, full disclosure, I came out angry. Like, I came out with a lot of trauma. I'd been physically tortured, emotionally tortured, segregated and separated from humanity. I had suffered violence that, like, people don't always understand. You can imagine, like, let's say you're handcuffed behind your back and then someone 6 feet tall and 300 pounds picks you up and slams you on your head and sends you to the hospital. It's hard to shake off that paranoia. That's what that scar is. You don't forget that stuff. Just because you're out of the bars, like, people think the best day of your life is the day you get out of prison, and it's not. It's like 4th of July. Like, you have these expectations, and then it's kind of scary, and it's hard. But as you move on, if you have enough support, you can grow. You can start shaking off the prison on you. But if you don't have support, I don't know how people survive without support. Honestly, I would have killed somebody or myself. I have 2 different therapists. I have great friends. I get to come on neat anarchist talk shows. Most people don't have that. Most people don't have a phone waiting for them and a beautiful wife and a home. And if you don't know how to deal with this stuff, you will crumble. And I cry all the time, dude. I weep all the time for kindness and for sadness. I hold people close. When I get off the phone with somebody, I'm terrified I'll never talk to them again. When someone walks out of the room, I get scared what if something happens to them. Because there were so many times I had friends that would either get transferred or get butchered. And you never know. And so I have to shake off the trauma that, like, you can live your life. You deserve to be happy. You don't have to live in fear. But PTSD is fucking real. And so it takes a lot of hard work and love, and we need to support people when they get out.
Hell yeah, bro. I'm really glad to hear that, honestly, that you're doing better, at least even just a year and a half in, bro.
Yeah, doing better.
That's good. That's good. So what kind of stuff are you involved in now? What kind of organizations are you involved in?
Yeah. So I realized when I got out of prison, like, we only have so many spoons. I cannot spread myself so thin that I'm really not doing anything for anyone. So I really, I got hired by Bread and Roses Legal Center, just Z. Williams, Erica Unger. And so we focus a lot on trans dignity. We focus on supporting this community that is getting destroyed by the government and by just bigots. And that's where I invest my time, like class struggles. I try to talk about abolition a lot. I try to encourage people to support prisoners, but also to learn what they're going through and why it's not necessary. And that takes a lot of work. I do lots of I try to talk. I talk a lot. And then I have, like, being able to write this book for real. Like, I'm not just here pimping some book, but it's trauma. Like, that's how I sift through all the bullshit they put within me. I get to tell the stories of what they're doing to people, these stories that are buried and the stories that I have buried within me. And so when I put them out, now all of a sudden I'm uprooting that repression tree that's taken hold in me. And so that's why I love doing talks. That's why I love people like you that give me a chance to just verbalize, like, what happens. Because I need people to care. I need you to care what the government's doing to people, because it could be you. If all of a sudden anarchy talk shows would become illegal, your ass could be right where I was. And so that's where I invest my time now. I just invested in trying to get people to give a shit. Trans people, marginalized people, houseless people, prisoners. Like, please, just someone give a shit what's happening. And that's where I put my love. That's where I put my heart.
No, I'm super glad to hear it, honestly, because that's the thing, I guess like, as somebody who's out there doing the work, the thing that always terrifies me is people being broken by their conditions, being broken by society, being broken by the punishment of the state, and no longer fighting back afterwards, just giving up or giving in or whatever that looks like. And it can look like a lot of really scary, dark things, right? And so I really appreciate you being here, just as a demonstration that isn't the natural outcome. It doesn't have to be. Like, if we all, number one, if we have the mindset that we are committed to our principles, that we can stick by those things as we proceed. Also, as you said, that we have support, that we have to have a community that is going to save us in that circumstance, right? That is going to at least emotionally bail us out from what is taking place to us. That is what leads to the longevity of radicals. And without that, it's hard to say what happens to our radicals.
It's wild. Like, if we cannot do this on our own, like, that's not what this world's about. It's not what I don't think any of us are about. And so supporting people's families, supporting people to be able to eat, supporting people's right to exist or the right to feel. Like, we don't have to shut out everyone who makes us mad. We don't have to shut out everyone that makes us feel uncomfortable. Like, we can do the hard work because we'll need that hard work also. But don't get me wrong, prison can suck that fucking life out of you real quick. I'm blessed, but I can see that every other prisoner could be blessed too if we invested in it. We put our actions where our heart is. That's truth. We can say whatever we want, but our actions show what we care about. And if we're physically and mentally capable, we should be there for other people.
Hell yeah. I'm super glad that you came on here. I think this went honestly perfect. But we can stick around and just chill and talk with chat and stuff, and whatever kind of questions people got. So like, yeah, if anybody in chat has like any kind of question you want to ask, I figure I'm going to chill here for a while and just talk with people.
I do have to take my daughter to her co-parent's house in like 12 to 15 minutes.
Gotcha.
So, chatters, if you want to get in, now's the time. Please go buy my book too.
Minutes.
Buy that goddamn book.
Buy the man's book. Buy the man's book. Come on.
It doesn't come out for another 6 months, but like, you can pre-order.
That's right. Prepare. Put it on the list. Put it in your calendar.
Yeah, I'm glad I heard about you, and I'm glad that I reached out, and that you were so quick to give the opportunity. And I'm also really glad that like there's been some really nice comments, or just like really, really cool things. Like, that's felt nice. Someone pointed out that you should look up what prison someone's at and like what the conditions are before writing them. Yes. Like, I thought that was such great advice. Like, know what they're experiencing.
We have a really good community here. And I think it really is partially because the community's focused on the construction as well as the destruction, right? Instead of just that negative or, negating orientation, it's also the constructive, the prefigurative orientation. And that's something we really try to emphasize here, the building.
Yeah, I feel it. I feel it big time.
So what's this person, Narf? They say, got here late, but I do have a question. May or may not apply, or maybe it was discussed earlier, but do you have a spiritual practice that helps with coping with trauma? I appreciate you for the discussion.
Yeah, and I do. I don't even know if this is anarchist. I don't give a shit. I lean into energy. I lean into that. I think the universe is a big, beautiful place that I don't fully understand. And I take energy and I call it my goddesses. I call it the people I love. I name it. And that's who I lean into when I'm going through something hard or when I'm going through something good, because it reminds me to be grateful, intentional gratefulness. And if I'm telling them how grateful I am for something, I'm also telling myself, and it gives me a chance to enjoy and express my love of life. So I do that absolutely. And I don't know where I would be without that energy. I'd be dark. So it helps me. It saved me.
Got another one here. He says, all I'd be thinking about would be food. What's the first thing you ate when you got out? Also, what's your favorite bird? So
it's obviously a crow. The most
yes, there we go. See, we got it, everybody. And crows, they're anarchists.
That's why, they're the most anarchist of all creatures. I love them to death. Also, tortoise. It's not a bird, but I have a lot of respect for tortoises. I just love them to death. They move on their own time. Like, you can't tell those dudes what to do at all. First thing I ate was oatmeal cream pies. It was my favorite food growing up, and I had to go that decade without it. And I ate about 3 of them and immediately felt like I was going to puke. It was so much. And my wife and comrades got me a cup of real coffee, and I took about 1 sip and felt like I was on meth. Put it down. Too much.
Honestly, though, we totally underestimate how powerful caffeine is as a stimulant. It is ludicrously powerful.
I wasn't ready.
Yeah. Did the oatmeal cream pie still taste good, or was it overwhelming now that you'd been in there for so
long? I also didn't realize that I had a very severe gluten intolerance.
Oh.
I didn't realize why my body, and I always felt like shit, always bloated. So at that time, it was the best thing I've ever eaten in my life, but it always made me feel bad afterwards. So now I realize that I was poisoning myself, but it was dope. And I can't encourage people enough that prison support cannot stop when those gates open. It obviously you can't invest your life and give every single person every single thing, but if someone's getting out, shoot them a couple bucks for a towel. shoot them a gift card to fucking Target, not Target, they're a piece of shit, but somewhere so they can get food that makes them happy, or a fucking phone cord to charge their phone. Like, people need help when they get out, and maybe let them be sad and shitty and still love them. Like, it helps.
As an architect says, your humanity remaining intact, even if bruised, is a huge flex and a testament to the failure of the state.
That's nice as shit. I hear that sometimes. I always think people are making fun of me because, like, I still have self-worth issues. Like, I don't deserve this. Like, what? I don't deserve kindness from Anarchitect 918 or you. But the goal that I try to put out is that, like, happiness is rebellion. Joy and survival are rebellion. And that's how I fight back. Like, I will find joy. I will find that love of life. I couldn't do it without my wife. I guarantee you that. The state almost had me. I was ready to ruin my life in there. But joy is the best way we can fight back. That they can't take everything. You can take something. You don't get everything, you motherfuckers.
It's a good place for us to end right there. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody in the chat. That was phenomenal. It was so easy. I know I didn't feel like it was a stressful at any point. I feel like
I'm a pretty cool dude.
Exactly. See, I'm lucky. You know, we hadn't really
I'll be back on when the book comes out.
Yeah, and buy the man's book, huh? Buy the man's book.
It wouldn't hurt. Comes out in January, but you can still buy it now. Also, thank you so much, bro, for real. You didn't have to do this, and it was a really beautiful discussion. I respect you so much. Thank you.
No, I appreciate you too, man. And it was actually really good getting to hear your story, and honestly, sort of inspiring. Got a little choked up towards the end.
Don't do that. You bastard. All right, I'm leaving the studio. Book name is A Clean Hell. A Clean Hell on PM Press.
There it is.
All right, love you guys.
Thanks for coming on. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Nice. Very successful discussion. Hope y'all enjoyed it.
Is that him?